Hello and welcome everyone, my name is Babi and welcome to the very first look on Spellcrafter. Spellcrafter is a game published and developed by Babi. Babi has made a few games which were all mobile games, Spellcrafter alike, and is ported to the PC. Now the general idea about mobile games is that they are not particularly good. And is this the case with Spellcrafter? Well, I guess we're going to find out during this video. Now, first off, a direct quote from the Steam page. Spellcrafter is an RPG with deep tactical turn-based combat and a unique spell system. I do wholeheartedly agree that the game has a unique spell system, and the spell system is a pretty neat idea. If it is good, we'll see in a bit, but I don't agree that the tactical system is all that, and again we'll see this in the course of the video. First, let's quickly check how many options we have, and we can only change the graphical fidelity in 3 stances, and I am pretty sure it does not do that much, as is to be expected with iOS games. Now we can change the sound volume and the music volume, and you might want to turn off the music volume because the music is very repetitive. There's not a lot of variety in the music. Right, let's get back to the main menu, and we're going to continue. I restarted the second level, so that's where we should be. Not to start from the beginning of the game, but not at the end of the game either. There we go, this is the beginning of a level. We can change the camera view by holding the right mouse button and scrolling the mouse. There we go. It feels very limited because we can't really move the camera in every single angle we would wish. At least I would wish. And we move by left clicking. We see a lot of dots on the ground, and these dots are there to represent footsteps. It would be neat if we could hold down the left mouse button and have the hero move constantly in a different direction, but I guess it's decent enough. The hero fields some armor. It's pretty weird for a spellcrafter, but very well. You would have expected him to worn some robes. But I guess it's good enough. It does the job. Right, let's get moving. But oh no. There's an enemy over here. Okay, that was a little bit too soon. It almost seemed very fake, and it was fake. But yeah, we got an enemy over here, and we want to engage him in just a little bit. We got perhaps some enemies over here. Now the thing is, we can move towards these enemies and it will show a little screen. This will show how many units we have, well, how many units we have to engage. And we can choose to either attack or retreat. In this case, let's retreat because I want to do something else first. This circle around a certain character means that you can open dialogue with this character and you can do a certain action. For instance, this guy, hey, I've lost my spell cards in the ruin. Can you find it for me? I will pay you 100 gold coins. The whole purpose of gold coins is to hire mercenaries, and I'll show you in a bit how this is done. Let's agree with this, and there we go. We didn't get the coins up front, but oh well. There we go. And as I said, the golden circle that surrounds certain character means that we can open dialogue with this character. So open some dialogue with this guy, although we can't click on him. The bad part about the game is that we have to move towards him, and it's very bad for another reason as well, and I'll show you in just a little bit. There we go. It's pretty hard to move through all 2 characters that are stationed in the corner like this one, and it's even worse walking away. Alright, so we got some melee units. Let's hire some of those and some ranged units. It leaves us with 10 coins, but that is fine. There we go. Now if we put this away, and I want to move away. Hold on. If I move away, there we go. It opens up the screen again. Now, obviously it doesn't do this all the time, but if you're positioned in an awkward angle, it's going to take you a few tries to move away, so it would have been better if you could click on said character. Your character would move towards him and would open dialogue or whatever. So we now got some units in our army. Let's move towards the enemies that are stationed over here. Now, this showed to be a very easy battle. The hazard of the battle is now small as opposed to moderate a few seconds ago. So let's attack these guys, or gals, I'd say. These are ghosts, actually. And there we go. And we hired a few farmers, but as you see, they're all stacked in one unit. It takes away some strategic element, as you can't strategically place all your melee units in front of your ranged units. It's going to be very easy for the enemy to move towards your ranged units, and it is going to happen, believe me. Let's move away these guys, because if the timer runs out, we can't do anything. There we go. Now, this is a ranged unit. He can, of course, attack from a distance. That is the whole essence of ranged units. Although, something very particularly odd is that it doesn't really matter how far the units are from the archer unit. They will do exactly the same damage, so there's no penalty whatsoever for distance. You would imagine that being on a closer distance, you would do a lot more damage and you would have a lot more accuracy, but that is not the case. Alright, now the whole point of the game is casting a spell. Let's go to the spell book first, select our spell, and there we go. This is the pattern that we have to move in, and let's slide. We now cast a spell. There we go. A very bad part is that we have a timer. Now, if this timer runs out, you are not going to be able to execute a command. And this can be very bad, because you have to select your spell first, and whilst choosing the spell you want to cast, the timer does go on. And if you have executed the drawing of the pattern correctly, the timer does go on still. So it's very silly. The game pushes the player to execute their commands, and it doesn't really give you options to use strategy in your games, even though the game pretends to be a strategically based. It does pretend to have a strategically based combat system. We can do some other spells as well. We can do ward spells, but a bad thing is if your mana runs out, you're not going to be able to do anything with your main character, which is pointless because, well, he is your main character. And you have to field some spell cards. Now, unfortunately, you do not give these. Do not get these handed out throughout the entirety of the game. So it's very hard to come by. And if you do manage to get these, you can spend them one time and they'll be gone. Something else. As soon as you're positioned next to a fence, for example, this ghost is, and we are as well, the ranged units are going to do less damage regardless from which angle they come from or regardless from what way they are standing. So it seems very superficial to me. Another thing I'd like to see, or I would have liked to see, was modifiers, damage modifiers. For instance, if I were to have shot this ghost from here, I would like to see what actually determines the damage that I do. But it does not, and it's very unfortunate. There we go. And you see the number dropping from 2 to 1, which means that that one ghost represented 2 ghosts, and now it's 1. And if it's only 1, you're going to do less damage. Same goes for your farmers and your archers. If they got less numbers, they're going to do way less damage. And so on and so on. It makes some sense. It makes some sense, but again, I would have preferred having separate units as opposed to 6 units in one stack. It's a very weird design choice. There we go. We have now leveled because we have accumulated enough experience, which means that we can level up our character. Now you see this little icon flashing over here, so it's quite obvious that we have to open that to level up our character's skills. We get a set of skills here. Now if I were to level up, let's say this one, I think it does not do anything, but it might. It would be very helpful if we would have tooltips, way more tooltips. The player simply can't know what he does if you were to select something, whatever. It would be very helpful to have these, but there's no help in the game whatsoever. Now, if I increase, let's say, attack, I don't know if attack damage actually increases. I do believe it does, but it's still not very clear if it is the case. But there we go. Also, you see over here how large the army is, or the companions that you have. But that is something aside. We can open the spell book over here as well and check out the spells. And there's a very brief description of what the spell does. And what would be very neat is if I were to click on a spell and I could train the pattern, although admittedly the patterns are not very hard to execute. There we go. Let's open this treasure chest and we get a bunch of money. The only thing you do with the money, as far as I have seen, and I'm pretty sure this is true for the entirety of the game, is hiring mercenaries. There we go. Let's hire some archers. There we go. It's I don't know. The game is very linear in that you have to follow a certain path. There's no choices to be made. The game is not. I wanted to say complicated. The game is not very deep. It's very superficial in a lot of matters, and I wish they would have fleshed the game out a little bit more, although a lot more for the PC version, admittedly. Now, another complaint is that we don't have a save option. We can restart the level, and this actually restarts the level. It does give you a pop-up, I believe, but it would be very neat if we would have some save states, because I could imagine people want to replay this game for some reason and want to start over again but not lose their progress, and unfortunately you can't do this in the game. It is either you start over or you continue your progress. Now, overall, I do like the concepts in the game. I do like the concept of drawing your spell before executing it. I don't know if it's so unique as it is pretended to be, because I could imagine, let's say, the Nintendo DS fielding a similar system. I don't think that matters too much, though. I do think that if they would have fleshed that system out a lot more, and they focus a little more on, well, a lot more on combat and user friendliness, because as you see right now, the limitations that we have are only here because of the mobile versions. They are completely unnecessary on the computer, and it's very unfortunate that the port has not been getting any attention. I think the game has a lot of potential if it were to be fleshed out in a future patch or DLC, but I can't in good consciousness recommend this game, unfortunately, how very much I would like to. But yeah, thank you very much for listening, everyone, and as always, have a good one. Cheers.